Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November 5th, 2021. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And now 24 hours before kickoff, Matt. So we're bringing that countdown to kickoff for Georgia Tech into focus here this morning on CaneSport.com. And we have a couple different 5-question features. And one is where we address 5 questions to Kelly Quinlan of Jackets Online and ask him to expound on some issues with Georgia Tech. And then the other is we tackle 5 questions ourselves. And that's what I wanted to kind of focus on a little bit here on Good Morning CaneSport today. So one of the questions that I think is really applicable going into this game is, can the Canes keep their edge? Now, let's put this in perspective. This is a team that lost 6 straight Power 5 contests and has now won 2 straight. So the question is that you've got a Georgia Tech team coming in here who is not believed to be one of the better teams in the conference, unlike the last 2 opponents that Miami clearly got up for. I think it's a legitimate question, Matt. Will they get up for Georgia Tech, and can they keep their edge? Your thoughts?
All right, you know what? For this one, I'm going to have to do this. Manny Diaz was handing these out on a Santa Mauro today. He said he had too many headsets. So, but yeah, I guess, looking ahead to this game, I do think, like we talked about yesterday, I think Miami is going to win pretty handily as long as they have the culture we think they have, as long as they keep fighting hard and really just battling every single rep. Like, Georgia Tech's not that good, and this is something else I wanted to bring up also. This is actually noise canceling. I can't even hear anything when I'm talking about that. But something else I want to bring up, which you didn't mention, which was and we haven't talked about this, even though it was a couple of nights ago, De'Ara King coming on, he's part of that leadership now. He's still at school. He's still helping out. But one of the things that shocked me from that interview was that he brought up, that I assume it was a PCL tear, a posterior cruciate ligament tear that he had against Alabama. And it's super interesting. I mean, you can play with a PCL tear. I'm sure he got cleared to play, obviously. They diagnosed it and said, go ahead and play. Usually, if it was like you or me, Gary, I researched the injury a little bit yesterday. And they tell you not to do any activity. And then the rice thing, the rest, elevation, ice it, the whole thing,
Well, no, I would have been fine. You just want to be waited on by your wife. That's all.
Of course, for sure.
Yeah.
If she would do that, which she wouldn't. But the point being, what I would be, you can't go back in time, right? But let's say they said, and this is what's crazy to me also, which nobody's mentioned because it sort of was recent news, but De'Ara King had a PCL tear. So what happens? He takes the whole week off, basically, from what he said, and then he goes out and plays App State and rushes the ball 19 times. How does Rhett Lashley let that even happen?
I know, man.
And then forget
to go in that perspective. Oh my God.
Well, let's go back in time again. Let's say Rhett Lashley knows what he has in Tyler Van Dyke, which he obviously did not, because he was willing to roll out an injured quarterback who was barely functioning the entire week and had him run 19 times against an App State team that's now, I think, lost 2 games, including to some lousy team, and get blown up.
They almost lost 2.
No, they lost 2. They lost to Louisiana.
No, I'm saying Miami almost lost to App State.
Correct. Miami almost lost. But if you watch that game, from what I remember, and I didn't go back and watch it, okay? From what I remember, De'Ara King just wasn't really throwing the ball. Now, I don't know if he couldn't plant on, I assume it was the right knee. I don't know if he couldn't plant well, wasn't comfortable throwing, whatever it was. What I would have been interested to see was if Rhett Lashley knew what he had in Tyler Van Dyke at that time, which we thought Jake Garcia at that time was the better quarterback. But again, Rhett Lashley should know. These guys are ready. These guys are going to be amazing. He should know. He's the coach. He's been around them. He's been around Tyler Van Dyke for 2 years. So if he knew what he had in Tyler Van Dyke, which we know now, and if he started Tyler against App State, I assume they would win that game. Start him against Michigan State, I assume they lose that game. But then they probably beat North Carolina and probably beat Virginia because you could see he just wasn't really ready for that environment yet. And then when he got those 2 starts under his belt, he was good to go, man. I would argue that if Rhett Lashlee had recognized what he had in Tyler Van Dyke, recognized that, he knew Derek had a PCL tear, but said, hey, we got a really good quarterback behind him, I think Miami right now is undefeated in ACC play. I mean, call me crazy. That's just what I think.
I'll call you crazy.
Of course you will. Of course you will.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And here's why. These are all coin flip games, and there's no
You know what? These are noise canceling. I'm putting them back on.
It went the other way the first 2 times. These 2 times it went the right way, but there's no guarantees. There's so many intangibles. How hard a team's playing, the decisions that are made during the week by the coaches. There's just so many factors that go into these games every single week, and you can't predict the outcome of one to the other
just
by
stop
changing the circumstances of one of them.
How do I do a timeout? Upside down timeout?
You could do that.
Rhett Lashlee literally told us he cost the team the game by coming out conservative against Virginia because he didn't.
No, he didn't say it in those words. He said he
basically said that.
He didn't say
he regretted
the
it.
Game.
He regretted what he did. What does that?
He did.
Take it a step further. What does that mean?
My fault. We lost. Let's be honest.
No, but take it a step further.
Yeah.
Take it a step further. He came out way too conservative, fell into a huge hole, and couldn't come back. If listen, for Miami, all that matters is the ACC, right? I mean, you can't go back in time, but it's just an interesting game to play. Yeah. What if? I honestly, look, you can argue all you want. They still would have lost to Virginia and North Carolina. Maybe they would have, but we already know they lost. Maybe they wouldn't have, if Tyler had those 2 games under his belt by that point. And he would have been splitting reps with Jake Garcia at the point, no doubt about it. But I would argue there's a better chance than not they win those 2 games. Those 2 teams are not that great.
All right, you got your headsets. I got my cane shades. Okay, and I think that they can keep the edge against Georgia Tech. But I will say this, that you've just had 2 big games against, 2 of the better teams in the ACC, the 2 teams that people still think are very, very good. And you've got a trip to Tallahassee coming next week. Okay, so this could be a trap. There's no doubt about it. But I think the Miami offense has really got it going right now. And I'm expecting them to fight through that and maybe win by 7 to 10 points. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I do think that Miami wins this game and does keep the momentum going.
I mean, what do you not understand? Georgia Tech is not good. If Miami doesn't beat them by 2 touchdowns or more, like something is not right. I mean, look, Miami, the way it played the last 2 games, if they can't continue to play that hard, there's just something wrong, and Manny's got to go. Like, they've got to play this hard every single game from here on out, and if they don't, it's a big red flag to everybody in the administration that this is not going to last. This is not built to last. Like, I would be fine, honestly. Fans are going to kill me, but I always tell it like I believe it. I would be fine if Miami keeps playing the way it has these last 4 games, playing their hearts out, as hard as I've seen them play in 20 years. If they keep playing this way the last 4 games against not very good teams, they should easily win those last 4 games. Even with some hiccups, they should win, as long as they see that effort and flying around and all that stuff. I mean, let's face it, Manny will have earned another year. He just will have.
If he wins out, he's coming back next season.
Whether he's the reason for the culture shift or not,
doesn't matter.
If he wins out, he's coming back. And fans don't want to hear it, and we've said it before. And I know you're on the record saying the roster's not good enough. Manny's got to go. Like, I always have said,
you go on like this forever.
Yeah, but I have always said that there's a path to success with or without Manny next year. Now, beyond that, I don't know. But there's that. We've talked about this. Ad nauseum. I'm not going to rehash it again. But they have enough young talent that with some transfer pieces, portal pieces, which you think they can't get, but I think they can, that I think that they could be really, really good next year. But
I didn't say I didn't think they could hit the portal. I said I don't think.
You said you don't think they'll get the players they need out of the portal.
I don't think they're going to get enough difference-making
players. I'm just repeating what you said. I think they can. So we have a difference of opinion. I'm an optimist. And what are they, doomers and boomers? I don't know what they are. I'm not a doomer as much as I was a few weeks ago. So
okay. I'm not a boomer or a doomer. I'm right in the middle, right where Miami is, quite frankly, and where I think Miami can go on like this forever if that's what they choose.
Well, that's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, you got
to remember one great year. Next year, if it happens like I think it can, with or without Manny, will breed recruiting success for the next class. This class is going to suck. Let's face it. They're already offering like backup plan B and plan C kids, and like, which I don't like seeing on the offensive line and a cornerback because they expect to lose Chris Graves, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not a fan of that, but if they can win big next year and people, have taken Manny off the hot seat and the other coaches off the hot seat, which is killing recruiting right now, they could put together a great 2023 class, hypothetically, if they have a great season. But if it all goes to hell next year, then Manny's gone and you put off, trying to rebuild things for another year. And, it is what it is at that point. But, to me, if they do win these last 4 games, and even if they lose a bowl game, as long as they play hard, against a quality team, I assume, in some no-name bowl, unless they magically have Pitt and who else has to lose? Pitt and Virginia, I guess, have to lose. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right.
But Pitt not to Virginia.
Well, yeah, they each have to lose 1 game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that happens, then they'll be an SEC title game. Great. But, we'll see. I mean, there's definitely a ray of hope that I think even you can see, right? I mean, there is a chance.
Yeah, I could see a little ray of hope, but I'm going to steal the words of Lee Corso. I'm going to say not so fast, my friend, because, if you look at next year, it can go in any direction, man.
Correct.
And it is going to be dependent on what they can do in the portal.
But is it worth blowing it up now instead of just wait? Like, let's say they play great and they had the last 4 games. Is it worth blowing it up now instead of waiting a year and saying, hey, let's just wait and see, maybe this will actually work? Because listen, people wanted to fire Butch Davis. They were ready to fire Butch Davis. Like, not that Manny Diaz is not Butch Davis. He's nowhere near the evaluator. He hates recruiting.
You can't even have the same conversation. Nothing against Manny. Nothing at all.
But
yeah,
what I'm saying is fans in the past have said fire, 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 and it's been a success is what I mean. Maybe somehow this works. I don't think it will. I'd say it's less than 50-50. But where I would have said 2% chance 3 or 4 weeks ago, now I think it's maybe a 25-30% chance it could work out. So,
I see 2 questions that they should answer. I'm not saying they're going to, because I don't think we can predict what they're going to do. The first question they need to answer is, what does the University of Miami want to be? Do you want to be a middle-of-the-pack ACC team? One of these, just one of these, NC State, North Carolina, Wake Forest, Pittsburgh. Is that what you want to be? Or do you want to be in the conversation with Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, those type of programs?
Listen, here's the problem. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to.
No, of course, that's going to be my next point. It's not going to happen overnight, no matter who the coach is.
Correct. So you take those steps.
So will you agree with me?
The first step is
will you agree with me on one thing? Just tell me if you agree.
No, I don't agree with you.
No, agree with me on one thing.
What?
Do you agree with me that Miami has the capability to be a program at that level?
Yeah, and the first step is what I see. This is why I raised my percent from 2 to 25. The first step is the culture and playing your ass off every single down. The next step is recognizing you can't keep rotating second and third teamers into games and expect to have a successful outcome. If the coaches can sort of really hone in on the guys that need to play and get those guys ready and practice correctly, and then fill in some pieces for next year, like that's the next step is winning. And then you fill in those recruiting classes based on that success. And then you get rolling. Like the way when Miami's program collapsed and crumbled like the Roman Empire in 2004 plus, it wasn't because of their success. They had so much success. It was because they got lazy recruiting and they got lazy with player development. And like it's been that way ever since, right? And they have a chance to rectify it. They need to get, look, I'm still not thrilled with the current staff overall, period. Notwithstanding Manning, I'm talking about the rest of the staff too. But like, it's not like they're trying to compete with Alabama and Georgia. They're just trying to win the ACC.
Right, and that's part of the problem. They're just trying to win the ACC.
That's also a next step.
They're really just trying to win the Coastal, and they're not being successful. And I'm going to disagree with you on one other thing, because that's kind of like the way we roll. And that is that you do need to be able to roll in second teamers, but they need to be as good as the first teamers. And that's what you get at Georgia. That's what you get at Alabama. That's what you get at Ohio State. And the only way to do that is to improve recruiting. So the first thing, like I was saying, before I was interrupted, was that they need to decide what do they want to be. That would be number one. And then once they figure that out, then question number 2 is, can Manny Diaz as head coach lead us there? Period. Everything else is a bunch of baloney, okay? And if the answer to number 2, if the answer to number 1 is we want to be one of the top 5 programs in the country, and you can't answer number 2 by saying, yes, Manny Diaz can lead us there and be able to, support that, then you have to find the fortitude to put on your big boy pants on and make the tough decision, as uncomfortable as it is. And I will acknowledge it's uncomfortable. It's going to be expensive. You're going to have to, upset some people who don't want to see change and don't want to be open to change. And you would have to make change. All that said, Matt, I think we are in total agreement that if they win these next 4 games and finish this season with 6 consecutive victories, that there's not going to be a change. Manny Diaz will be back. And I think we agree with that. All right, another question that is part of this feature that I'll throw out right now for conversation involves the fans. And will the fans show up tomorrow at Hard Rock Stadium and be supportive? I don't think there's going to be a lot of people there. I really don't. I know it's homecoming. I think if they can somehow get the 40, I think that would be an accomplishment.
I think that they should announce that they're paying every fan who lines up at Canes Walk $20 to be there an hour before the game. Boom.
Well, that's 2 hours before the game.
2 hours. Sorry, 2 hours before the game. Yeah, 2 hours before the game. But no, listen, day games against non-quality opponents with a team that has struggled is a recipe for those old Orange Bowl, Temple games, right? You remember those games? It's
Yep.
At kickoff, if it's half full, I'll be pleasantly surprised, and then it'll fill in probably a little bit as the game goes on. But the main thing to me, and it's not like a huge recruiting game or anything like that, but these games that are televised, the recruits watch the games and they notice, and it would be nice if they play well enough to where fans aren't booing. I think every single home game since Michigan State, I believe there's been at least one episode of booing, including the last home game at halftime. So maybe they can make it through a game without any booing. How about that?
Well, I was at Pitt last week. Their crowd wasn't any better than Miami crowds, really. I mean, their upper deck was hardly used. North Carolina.
And that's sad because the Clemson game, it was rocking there. Like Miami used to be the draw. Miami game against Virginia Tech, at all these schools, it would be their game. What has happened, man? It's it's just like Miami now. People they used to storm the field if they'd upset Miami. Now it's just like we expected to beat Miami almost. It's sad what's happened. Over the how many years have I covered this team? 20 plus years. You're right. I mean, they need to make an honest assessment somewhere. And you mentioned this, they need to make a hard decision. But I didn't say this because I don't want to interrupt you again because you seem to get upset about that. But who's making the decision? Who? Julio Frank's not making the decision. Blake James didn't make the decision. So you're leaving up a bunch of fans who are basically the board.
I think the president's office will end up making the decisions. I really do.
They're not going to be able to analytically figure this thing out without outside help, and they haven't hired any firms that I'm aware of.
We're going to find out, aren't we?
They need to hire a firm to analyze the whole situation because they have no clue, man.
I know. We're going to find out. All right, so we've got those 2 5-question features this morning on the website. I think everybody will like those. We also have a story with DeAndre Johnson. And Matt, we talk about the transfer portal. We've been talking about it on this show. DeAndre Johnson was one of the, along with Rambo, was the prime catches, and I guess Tyreek as well, in the transfer portal last year. And Tyreek's done great. Rambo's done great. Miami will certainly be looking for players of that level this year in the portal. DeAndre Johnson hasn't really done much this year, man, unless I'm missing something. A very pedestrian season. Would you agree?
DeAndre Johnson has done exactly what I expected him to do. He was a backup linebacker at Tennessee. They decided to make him a defensive end here. I mean, come on. What do you think is going to happen?
Yes.
I don't know why they took him. I mean, to be a starting end. They had other guys maybe that they couldn't get. I don't know. But this is no surprise to me.
No, I agree. And that's why I question whether you could fill 8-10 slots in the portal with quality players. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. And that's why I grimace a little bit when I hear, next year is going to be great because of Tyler Van Dyke. I'm not convinced that next year is going to be any different than this year. That's just me right now. But I will put a qualifier on that in that we don't know what next year's team is going to look like yet, because I do think there's going to be 8-10 guys that are recruited from the portal that are going to be in the equation. So until we see those 8-10 guys, who they are, what they look like, it's very, very hard to really make too much of a prediction on next year. All right, we also have a story today on Amari Carter. So that's worth checking out. A recruiting story on four-star defensive lineman Samuel Mdemba. That's a tough last name to pronounce. He will be visiting for the Miami-Georgia Tech game on Saturday, so you can get a little bit of a preview on what he's saying leading up to that visit. Then, just to jump ahead, on game day, we'll have a few other things for you guys to look at, looking towards the Georgia Tech game. And then, of course, we will have all of our game coverage this weekend on the Miami-Georgia Tech battle on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. So it'll be an interesting weekend. Miami should win the game, obviously, 9.5-point favorites. And the expectation is they're going to win. But wouldn't be a shock if Georgia Tech keeps it interesting for a while. That's a very desperate team that's going to be coming into Hard Rock Stadium. They know if they don't win Saturday, they are not going to likely go to a bowl game. So we'll see what happens. All right, so for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us today on Good Morning CaneSport. Everybody that's going to the game, we'll see you at the stadium. And everybody else will be on the message boards over the weekend, and we'll come catch up with you on Monday morning. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, everybody.